right, let's get into it, Broder. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Jeff.
You know what day
Flannel.
it is. It's Tuesdays with Broder.
Lucas. JB.
Woodward Night Zone, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. This man covers the Lions for Woodward Sports. And Broder, I want to ask you,
to me.
Start off, your reaction to what the hell happened Sunday. We know, you've been a big Jared Goff guy, and it's funny because he struggled for 3 quarters, probably had his worst 3 quarters as a Detroit Lion, and then in the 4th quarter, he was damn near almost perfect. So can you kind of go through your thoughts on the Lions just finding a way to get it done?
Yeah, it was really, like, literally a glass case of emotions. Jared Goff, he didn't have his best 3 quarters, but he and the rest of the team, when they needed him the most, they played well, and they played a savvy last 4 minutes of the game. It felt like that the last 2 drives that they had were literally poetry in motion. It was, I've said literally twice, they weren't literally those things, but the offense was really moving. The mistakes that they were making earlier in the game weren't the case there on the last drive. So, just to sum it up, it was an ugly game, but when they needed them the most, they made the plays on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, see, that's what it came down to ultimately. I mean, you look at all the statistics that came out after the game, and I was shocked because it's, all these teams that are in a similar situation. It was like 0-70 or whatever the hell it was. No team found a way to get it done.
0-84.
0-84,
yeah.
Thank you for that. And they found a way to get it done. So there's 2 ways to look at it. One is it's concerning because, there was parts of that game where, especially defensively, maybe they, coverage wasn't bad, but defense wasn't looking great. Offense wasn't looking great. But I think the overall takeaway is you're not going to play your best game. And they found a way to get it done. I think that's the bigger takeaway. Because I know we can come in Monday and be like, listen, man, the offense, Jared Goff throwing 3 picks, all that's concerning. I think it should be the opposite. It should be like if this team can just kind of be lackadaisical and just walk through and not give a damn and find a way to win. I think that's a true sign.
Yeah, it makes me optimistic, and it makes me even more optimistic about Jared Goff. Just seeing him fight through some adversity, whether it was self-caused or not. He and this team fought through some adversity, which will help, coming down in a playoff run. Just being able to recover from that. Jared Goff, he seemed... Although he was throwing some bad balls, he threw those 3 interceptions, really could have thrown 2 more, one of which could have been a pick 6. He never changed his demeanor throughout the whole game. Like it felt like he never threw that interception the drive before because he came out playing really, really steady, really, really calm. And sometimes the ball didn't bounce the right way. Literally there's another literally. It was tipped at the line of scrimmage, the ball intended for DPJ. But no, when they needed him the most, he was as calm as ever, and they drove down the field following that Jameson Williams touchdown.
Yeah, Sam, I feel like I think if this was Jared in L.A., he wouldn't have found a way to win that game. It's just the growth of Jared. Although the interceptions are not good, you can kind of see the growth and the maturity there because back in L.A., I feel like Jared would have just melted down. It's a different quarterback.
No, that's fair, but to also be fair, the much maligned defense only scored. They held the Bears to 3 points total off of those Jared Goff 3 interceptions. They did score a touchdown though off of that Craig Reynolds fumble on the kickoff return. So the defense kind of kept him in it, and that sort of leads me to my next point, Broder. Yeah, on yesterday's show, I described this Lions team as inevitable, which means that no matter what happens in games, you always feel like they're going to find a way to win because for the most part, they always do. In their last 20 games dating back to last year, the Lions are a ridiculous 16-4. I mean, that's just insane. Like Super Bowl teams don't play that well at that a clip in the regular season. And in only 2 of the games, they've been outplayed thoroughly. It was the one game against the Panthers where they gave up the franchise record for rushing yards, and then the game to the Baltimore Ravens where Lamar Jackson arguably played his greatest regular season game. And this is a guy that won an MVP in 2019. Other than that, it's just a lot of wins, the game against the Bills and then the game against the Seahawks, which... Shoot, the Lions have had some trouble with the Seahawks, but that's another story for another day. Because even when the Bears were ahead 26-14, and the Lions got the ball back with almost 5 minutes left, I still kind of felt confident because it was like the Bears could have killed them when they had the chance, but they didn't. Do you understand where I'm coming from, and did you share that sentiment at all?
I did. We got lucky that Eberflus was coaching kind of like drivers on the road this morning, just like ultra conservative. He changed their whole dynamic of their offense changed at the end. So there was a little bit of help there, but for that defense to come out and get a stop after the Jameson Williams touchdown, I think that drive was 26 seconds long. It was like 2 runs and an incomplete pass, and all of a sudden the Lions get the ball back again, driving down the field for the win. Every ball bounced perfectly for the Lions to pull off that comeback, and they took advantage of it. got to give him credit for that on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, you have to. Another guy you got to give credit to, Jameson Williams.
Yeah.
And by the way, the reason why it's important, me and Sam will argue about, touchdowns that are called back, but the big thing, and Sam even agreed with this yesterday, is it was big time what he went out there and did. They needed a touchdown. The Bears knew the Lions needed a quick touchdown. St. Brown came up to Jamison before the play and said, "Hey, this ball's coming to you." And he caught the football.
Yeah.
It was a one play, one quick score, and Jamison came down with the ball. I think his development has been an interesting storyline because his snap count has been going up over the last couple of weeks. The coaching staff has been giving him a lot of praise. Your thoughts on the growth of Jamison so far and maybe what you expect moving forward?
I just think we're going to keep seeing him take strides forward and see good things happen on the field when he's on the field. And I think it's going to happen more often with the ball in his hands as we move through the season. But seeing that play, seeing that touchdown, that's a trust throw from Jared Goff. That's the culmination of this relationship building, all coming out in one play, both with Jared Goff and you talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown and him, that little conversation they had before the play. That's confidence that they continue to pump into him, and you can see him. Lucas and I were talking just before this segment. It's confidence talking in the locker room. Like Jameson Williams, he feels like a different person than he was 4 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, definitely last year. It's really good to see, and I think the most important part is he scored that touchdown, and what happened when they were driving down the field for the win? What was wide open for the Lions? The middle of the field.
Right.
Like they were able to find Amon-Ra St. Brown. Sam Laporta had a few catches there because the middle of the field was open. Jahmyr Gibbs, he was able to catch the ball out of the backfield. Those are the type of football things that Jameson Williams, he can help. He can affect the game without actually catching the ball. That was a huge touchdown catch. But then it was what that touchdown catch, what that play does for the rest of the team that very next drive. And they did try to take another shot to him, so they're starting to try to push the ball, and that just opens up the field. I love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely a great game out of Jameson Williams, a very impactful game. And if I'm going to say it, it must mean it happened, because I am not a hater, despite what people think.
Hey!
And maybe I've earned that reputation. But anywho, somebody who I almost never hate on and have defended even against some of the haters is Aiden Hutchinson.
Aiden.
How nice was it for him to get that big play to sort of close down the club? Because 29 seconds, it's not a lot of time, but in the NFL, we've seen quarterbacks drive down and get a field goal. I mean, we saw what Josh Allen did to the Lions last year, although Justin Fields is not Josh Allen. But be that as it may, how big was it for him to make that big play and kind of get him off of the schneid when it comes to sacks?
Yeah, because as Lions fans, we've seen that happen often.
Oh, yeah. And no, it's not Josh Allen, but Justin Fields and DJ Moore, like they can do some things. Like they can score quickly. Whether one of them just needs to break free and they're gone. So to get that the very first play on their first round pick, Darnell Wright, for him to just sneak through and finally get the sack that that we've all been waiting for, I should say. I'm sure he's been dying for it too, was absolutely huge. And how about Sam Flannel just nearly getting that hot take right when he said you called for Aiden Hutchinson a strip sack or a fumble recovery and a touchdown, like all in one play.
Well, that was my ultimate hot take.
Yeah.
What I actually called for was just a strip sack that was returned for a touchdown in some way. But I was also kind of like, my dream scenario is Aiden Hutchinson.
Count it, though. We'll count it. If you wouldn't have kicked the ball, that would have been a tutty. We'll count it.
No, it was an absolute.
Sam doesn't
play.
like what could have been. That's not a big thing.
I actually don't like what could have been.
So don't count it.
Yeah.
Right, how about this? We gotta be consistent.
Fair. That's fair. That's fine.
A friend of Freddie Felt 313 in the chat actually caught the ball. And they're working to get it back to Aiden Hutchinson. Yeah,
Freddie?
I think it was a she. A friend of Freddie's.
Oh, friend of Freddie's. Okay.
So they're working to get it back into the hands of Aiden Hutchinson. The ball he punted.
Yeah.
But very cool. I mean, that, like David Montgomery's touchdown celebration, you could just see all the emotion just pour out of those guys. What a comeback! An ugly game, but. Hey, a W. That's a division W.
And you could argue, and they've been saying it, Lions players and coaches counts as 2 wins, I would say, just because it's an NFC win, especially for the number 1 seed, those purposes. But it's a division win.
Yeah.
Speaking of division, you got the Packers this Thursday.
It's coming.
Your expectations for that? I know we've already seen it on one go around in Green Bay, and they took care of the Packers decisively. But again, it's the NFL. It's a week-to-week league. Everything's different. What are your expectations? How do you kind of foresee the Lions handling this one on a short week, which I think honestly benefits them because an ugly game, they get to move right on to the Packers.
You get to move right on, and there weren't any major injuries in that game. Like
That's true.
The practice report yesterday, the injury report was was very short. So to come out of that on a short week with very little injuries, and it's an opponent you've already played before, so they don't have as much new prep to do. They know the Packers, and the Packers know them too. Dan Campbell talked about it. They both know each other, so now it's about getting healthy, staying healthy, getting to that game. And I expect a lot of the same of that first game. Maybe not as dominant, but I think they're gonna run it a lot with David Montgomery again. They're gonna try to neutralize Rashawn Gary, who's playing really well. I think it's gonna be a high-scoring game. The Packers, though, they are playing a little better. This game, Jordan Love played really well this past weekend, so they've got some confidence. I don't think they're a good team, but you can never trust a team with confidence, especially on a holiday. Weird things happen in Ford Field too. But I do think this team's different. They'll take care of business.
What's your concern level for the defensive line besides, because Aiden can make plays, and he's glad, again, he's back in the sack column. Ali McNeil, another guy that's, again, first interior defensive lineman to have 5 sacks, I believe, since Sue is the number. But someone else, like, is it really going to be Bruce Irvin? Like, who else, especially when you're going to go up against teams like the 49ers and the Eagles in the playoffs? What's your concern level with this defensive line? I like Josh Pascal, but even him hasn't been consistent.
Yeah.
Just your thoughts maybe on the guys up front, because offensive line, we know what they have. It's elite. But defensive line, I do think there's some more questions still, because there was times where they just couldn't finish against the Bears.
Yeah.
They get pressure, but they couldn't finish.
I worry about the defensive line. I like some of the pieces they have. It hasn't all come together yet, and I don't think it's. The personnel isn't elite. Aiden Hutchinson is elite. Ali McNeil's on his way there, and I wouldn't argue with you if you said he was elite. But there really hasn't been any consistent quality performance out of anybody else. There have been good performances here and there. They got some good players, some big bodies like Benito Jones, like Quentin Bohanna, who had a big play.
Shout out.
But though, respectfully, those can't be your number ones. Like you need. They're good enough, and this is why the run game is really good. They're really good at doing their job and building a wall. You don't see the offensive line push the defensive line back very often, but you don't see that defensive line push the offensive line back. You don't see them getting penetration. And I think that's going to be important once you come playoff time, once you come these big games against the Cowboys late in the year. The Broncos are playing well. They're going to need to figure out how to get some pressure. And I'm an Aaron Glenn supporter, so don't take this the wrong way. I just think he is going to need to get creative in how he uses these pieces before James Houston gets back, before C.J. Gardner-Johnson gets back. I don't think you can bank on them. So there's got to be some creativity done to allow these guys to get in the backfield some way.
Yeah, personally, my thoughts on AG, and you listen, criticism's fair, but to me, it's more of a personnel issue.
Yeah,
like
I'm 100% with you.
And Easy said this yesterday, and I had to think about it, and I agree with him. He's like, name me any top 10 guys in this defense. I'm like, well, they don't have any. It's a good point. They have guys that maybe we think could be top 10. Aiden Hutchinson, Kirby one day maybe.
Yeah.
Ali McNeil.
Anzalone's been playing really well.
Maybe he would be
he's a top 10 guy.
Top 10 linebacker, but
Hutch is a top 10 edge rusher.
Hey, I'm not gonna be.
I'm there.
I would say not production wise though. Is he top 10 in sacks?
Probably in hurries for sure.
But regardless, fine. If as a player you think he's top 10, but
I think if you ask offensive coordinators game planning against the Lions, they'll say we're figuring out how to neutralize Aiden Hutchinson. I think that's worthy of a top 10 edge rusher in the league.
I mean, I guess I'd give you Hutch. I just don't think Hutch this year is top 10 with how he's playing.
He needs help.
You could say top 10 if you want to. I think it'd be fringe, but the fact that it's kind of like shows you like the Lions thought Aiden Hutchinson, and it's not like he's been playing bad. We all thought like he would be a top 5 defensive end this year, and it's not the case. The defense is okay, but I think when we add C.J. Gardner-Johnson back, you add James Houston back, that's when I think it's fair to truly criticize Aaron Glenn if you're doing so.
Yes.
Just because when you're going up against elite teams and you have good talent, not elite talent on the defense side of the ball, especially at the cornerback position when you're going up against good quarterbacks, it's going to burn you when you don't have that pass rush. Like AG just has to overcompensate more than he was expected to going into this year, because you also add on, Emmanuel Mosley, he didn't even touch the field this year. Well, he did for one play, and then he got hurt. So that absolutely derailed the season for Aaron Glenn, who's a secondary strength guy. So he's trying to just pick up the pace every game. Every game, he's got to come up with a new game plan for each opponent, because it's not what he thought heading into the season. I know that's a common thing for defensive coordinators, but it's just like when the Lions let up a lot of points, it's like, yeah, there's reasons for that. If you just go look at the points per game or something, it looks ugly, but then you can't just blame Aaron Glenn from that. You have to look at the context around it.
And that's why, like, and you mentioned it, like, offensive coordinators looking at this defense, like, all right, take Aiden Hutchinson out of the ball game. We'll kind of figure it out from there.
Yeah,
and
I
there's
think
not multiple guys you're game planning for.
And I think this is part of why we're seeing some struggles or some inconsistencies with Jack Campbell and Derek Barnes, because I think they're really working on getting those guys involved in the pass rush. And it's not necessarily, I guess it's a little more natural for Derek Barnes. He did that at Purdue, but we see a lot of these linebackers getting more involved. And Alex Anzalone has been too good in coverage to really go all out in the pass rush, although I really like how he looks rushing the passer. Maybe you get some more out of Brian Branch. We saw some really good things in the backfield. But no, you're right. They got to figure out how to get guys in the backfield and make it difficult for these the more elite quarterbacks as it comes playoff time.
All right, awesome. Appreciate you, Broder. I mean, you're more than welcome to hang for a little bit. But hey, if you got stuff to do, hey, listen, Broder's he's a busy guy, dude. I mean, he's got Woodward in Maine, he's got Woodward Knights. This guy's covering the Lions.
We're 8-2, man. There's no complaints here. This is the best season.
All right,
this is great. Let's go.
All right, there you have it. Let's hear about it.